Today's to-do list. Weed the garden. Quick trip into the market to deliver the berries to Mrs. Scott, then into the volcanic zone to take out a Cerberus so I can finally finish the new oven element I've been looking forward to. Miss Luna's going to be pleased. This week on the podcast, join me, Zach Walsh, as I talk with Chris Pelech about the upcoming cozy monster hunting game, Cottages and Cerberus. Create a hunter destined to make the coziest of homes in this game of stakes and community. Cottagecore hunting and cozy feelings are all up for discussion right here on Schedule for Launch. Welcome to Schedule for Launch, a podcast to discover the projects that you may have missed. This week, I'm incredibly excited to be joined by an amazing creator I've had the chance to be able to talk to for the past couple weeks now as we prepared for this interview. Chris Pelech, thank you so much for coming onto the show this week to talk about the cozy and deadly game, Cottages and Cerberus.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
How are you doing today, though? Like, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm excited to have you.
It's been a really good day. I'm very pumped for this.
We were talking a little bit about this before because you'd sent me the newer updated version of Cottages and Cerberus, and I finally got to see some art for this game outside of, I think there was like one, but it was a Google Doc last time I saw it.
Yep.
And now it's all colorful and the art is so emotive and adorable. And then you have these amazing monster designs, and I'm really excited for people to hear about this game. Get kind of a first look at this because I'm pretty sure that the word's not out like huge on Cottage and Cerberus yet.
No, I am very bad at marketing. I don't do social media anymore, which I'm trying to do again for this. I have a pretty strong group of like local people who know about it, but online I'm trying to rev up as quickly as possible for the Kickstarter.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time here, but like social media is the worst part about getting out there. It's like, hey, I made this amazing thing, and now I have to go try and get people to come and look at it. But like, it's so hard to get eyes on there, and I'm really excited to be helping get the word out here.
I really appreciate it.
Chris, before we get into Cottages and Cerberus, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Chris Pelech. I am a giant nerd. I've been playing ttrpgs for almost 18 years, going on in June. A lot of those early years very much is referred to as lonely fun. Because I was a child without friends interested in the hobby, and that really kind of shows with some of my design goals, and something that you can entertain yourself when you aren't playing the game. I am a software engineer. I've had about 2 to 3 years doing video game programming and design early in my career, and then really fell more into that tabletop space as I've gotten a bit older. I have notes because I'm really good at talking about myself. I'm a total nerd. I hyper-focus. By hyper-focus, I mean I obsess about like 5 projects at once. I lift every day, and I make sure to make that nerdy because I have spreadsheets.
I love it. No, that's great. I think that it's really interesting because the more and more I talk to creators, and this, I'm not going to pose this question to you. It's something I'm starting to notice more frequently. We've had a lot of software engineers on this show, and it's like software engineers can't stop designing because they're like, I need to go analog, no electronic, gonna make something physical. Let's design a game.
Yeah, I am nodding my head. Yes, 100%.
So we're here to talk about, like I said, Cottages and Cerberus. which is incredibly cute, very interesting looking. And when you pitched it to me, the words you used were, imagine if you were playing Animal Crossing mixed with Monster Hunter. And I was a little taken back by that because they're very different games. And kudos, you did it. I've read it. It's really impressive. But what is Cottages and Cerberuses?
So it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a rules light in quotes tabletop RPG. The core gameplay loop is you have a cottage, or your party has a cottage. You go hunt a monster and then harvest it for parts to improve your cottage. It is heavily inspired by watching my partner play Animal Crossing. I myself have most of my exposure to the game has been from her. And yeah, it is meant to be a cozy game, but something that if you want to something a bit darker, it has the roots to grow something larger. It is supposed to be easy to pick up, but you can also spend 5 hours trying to min-max your perfect fire mage or whatever. And I could go on listing these dualities because it's something that is meant to be a lot of things at the same time. It is meant to be a flexible game.
It's that flexibility that I wanted to bring up there too, because you mentioned that you could either min-max your fire mage or you could hop in with a quick start character. The options to start this game when you are creating your character can either go by really, really quickly and just get you in there and get you playing, or you could spend a considerable chunk of time ensuring your character is really, really strong in one area and can do like a lot of things, including combat or being able to talk your way through situations. And I think you can talk about min-maxing in just about any game, but the way that you've approached it with, I believe it's called the calm system.
Yes.
Really
calm is your attributes instead of strength, dex. Calm is your charisma, alchemy, or magic, lore, and muscles.
Yeah. But I think that those are such good stats to start and round out how this game works. So could you talk a little bit about what it's like to create a game that's both really easy to get started, because I think I told you this right before, if I wanted to run a game of this, I just need to hand my players some pre-made characters and we could go. But also so something that could be started really fast, but also has a lot of depth if you want to do it that way.
A lot of that just comes from how I run games myself, where I have people who have various investment levels in the game. I tend to play crunchier systems like Pathfinder 2, which was a huge influence. But I'm also a role player. I can take a 5-minute encounter and stretch it to 3 hours of blah blah blah. And so for me, choices should be just a good thing. More choices is better. People do get paralysis from that, so you need to find ways to kind of add a funnel, basically. So your first choice is, are you making choices or not? If not, choose a quick start. If yes, here are all your choices.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that you've done it in a really cool way. I think something that we see a lot in the indie tabletop space is we get a lot of these games and not throwing any shit at them at all, because some of my favorite games are these really short one-shot games. And this game has built in various written ways to suggest how to do it in one shot, but you've really designed this to be a multi-session, somewhat long game if you wanted to go that way. So I love it. I think that it's great. You have this system for ranking your cottages, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I'm really impressed by it. And I think that the guide that you sent me, is 150 pages right now. And based on what's in there, I'm expecting it to grow a little bit more.
So so right now we have so you have a column. Most of your capabilities come from your abilities. This is like make a spell, fire. I've already written 100 extra abilities. We have about 25 monsters right now. We are going to have at least 5 more unlocked via stretch goals. And then I also have things like a village generator unlocked via stretch goals. NPCs kind of based off of Harvest Moon and that, where you can quickly have NPCs that you level up your relationships as an optional rule. And then I will also have a tier to basically design a monster that will be added to the book. So I'm guessing there will be at least 250 pages.
Wow. Let's keep going into that, because the monsters and hunts specifically are arguably my favorite part of this game. Players out there and listeners out there who are interested in Cottages and Cerberus might think that 25 seems like a fairly low number of monsters. That is not the case here. So each monster is set up as its own basically mini story on how to track, hunt, fight. Like, it's its own challenge, so it's super cool. Can you talk about designing hunts and maybe one or two of your favorites that are set up for an example?
Oh,
because I love that.
I can attempt to do that. So when we say 25 monsters, these are 25 bosses.
Yep. Think Monster Hunter on that one.
Yes, this is a boss battler. I have some rules for weaker minions that are really just supposed to make the player feel really good. These are supposed to be the big boss fights. So each fight, each hunt is a little mini game, essentially. I really looked at kind of that game design of you're building up to something bigger. It's they might not be challenging. Some of them are. And they build up to a final confrontation. Often some of them might hint at what you will face in that final combat. And in total, I would say each thing is an hour to an hour and a half, including the fights. So these are pretty full, complete, small game sessions.
Yeah. I think the best way to sum it up, and if I'm reading it correctly, and this is really clear to me, more or less what will happen is the party will start the game and they'll more or less agree on what they want to build or upgrade in their house. And then the GM goes through and chooses a monster that they think is applicable for that. And then the hunt begins.
Yes, that is 100% correct.
It's so cool.
And going through that, you could, if you're familiar with ttrpgs, you could pick up this game. You and your players could read the quick start. Whoever is a GM chooses a monster, and you could get going in 10 minutes.
It's really straightforward, in the best way possible.
Yeah, but it's very much, I wanted a lot of complexity, but very approachable complexity. Favorite monster is so hard because
they're really good. They're very, very good.
There's almost every single one could be favorite in some regards. Favorite design-wise, favorite hunt, favorite lore.
there's a lot to each of these monsters. They're like 3 pages. And then like
Yeah.
a lot of them have like a full page art piece to show you what they look like. It feels like somebody handed the player characters in world a book and was like, here are the things that are out there.
And some of the art be very explicitly. Some of the art I really love, colorful art. Some of the art is very Monster Hunter inspired. Some of it is very, very Pokemon inspired. I love monsters because of Pokemon and Digimon. But some of it is supposed to evoke a medieval bestiary with like rough sketches. So Ironblood is a monster that I really like. I was telling you a bit about it. It has the deadly tag, and it also kind of shows this is a cutesy game. It doesn't have to be cutesy if you do not want it to be cutesy. The origin of the species is dark, but also dark like a Grimm's fairy tale that someone would tell their kids long ago. Going with that a bit, these are hard. In the quick start, I recommend you use the easy mode, which decreases the difficulty of every check by 2. This, because I balance them assuming you know the game. If you don't, make the game easier.
Trickier.
All of them kind of follow this mathematical formula of how the fights ramps up, because I want to really control the emotions as a game designer. So the boss starts stomping you. They all have these abilities that activates right away, and then they have these abilities that recharge. You probably will lose half your spoons, which is our version of health, and round 1. And then usually people end with 1 left.
Jeez, that's real tight.
I've ran over the last week, and I ran about 25 sessions just by myself playtesting, and everything was like balanced to the rounds.
So let's actually look at that for a little bit, because each hunt, like we said, it kind of has a bit of a formula to each one. So what are some of the common parts of a hunt?
So usually you might have to do some sort of tracking, and while you're tracking, the monster from above, from far away, will curate some sort of long-range attacks that you'll have to try to dodge. If you don't, you'll lose health. Sometimes it might show you some of what they will be doing in the fight, or you might be fighting some minions. There is some, the Rosehound Ravager likes to drink nectar from giant flowers. That might trigger you to reveal a bit of your backstory. For example, some of the Sunflower Serpent is a big snake that looks like a sunflower, and you kind of are trying to play your whack-a-mole.
I just love the uniqueness of it, because some of them involve things like riddles, and some of them involve, like you said, monster fights or minion fights or tracking, and there's just like a lot. Like I think the one that popped up on for me was the Camila Mental.
Yes.
Which is like the most terrifying game of hide and go seek.
Yeah, you're trying to find it, and it keeps running away while damaging you. But it also gains more and more elemental power. It's a chameleon elemental. And so it's drinking on elemental energy while you fail to find it.
Basically, it's super cool. I just love the personality of the monsters. You had mentioned, though, briefly spoons in this game, which is the equivalent of HP. So let's talk about spoons, losing spoons, and gaining spoons, because if a lot of people are like, I'm going to be losing HP getting up to this thing, how do I get that back? So let's talk about that a little bit.
So yeah, spoons, it comes from a theory on chronic health, on chronic pain and mental health. your spoons are basically your capacity in this theory to do things. Some days, if you are really sick, you do not have the spoons to do basic things. You have to budget to them. So I kind of took that and made it my research system. It is your health. It's kind of your mental health. It is your capacity to do things. This is a dice pool system. When you fail, but you get at least one success on that roll, you beat the target number. I'll assume people your audience know a bit about dice pools.
Number. Yeah.
If you only get one or two of those, you can still succeed, but it costs a bit more of you. You succeed at a cost of your spoon. You also lose spoons via damage when monsters attack you. So, but you can regain spoons. There's a few abilities, few healing spells, but you also have your vibe. It's one of the core parts of your character, and that defines how you regain spoons. And extroverts, I think I called it cheers, regain spoons every time you start a scene with your buddies. A introvert regain spoons every time you start alone, and then obviously for balance they gain a bit more. One of my favorite is photosynthesis, which reads, you aren't a plant, or you probably aren't a plant, but sun is still good for you. If you start a scene outside, you regain spoons.
There are a lot of ways to get them back, which is good because the monsters in this game hit hard, and they hit fast, and they can take a player down really quickly if you're not careful, because, like you said, there is still some crunch to this game, even though it's supposed to be a bit of a cozy experience. So, what happens when you're all out of spoons?
You don't fall unconscious. You just can't succeed on anything. Any check fails automatically. Your capacity to affect the world around you is gone, which also means there's no death in this game, but that also means I'm not scared of making it possible for the players to lose and you have to retreat, which for some players might be a hard pill to swallow, which I think is great, especially from a storytelling perspective, where you butcher a boss fight, have to escape, and try it again. I think there's a really cool storytelling possibilities there.
Yeah. When I was reading that the first time, it reminded me of when I think I was about 12 or 13. I was playing Monster Hunter Freedom 2, and I ran into my first Elder Dragon that wasn't the Thunder Horse Kieran, and I believe it was a Teostra. And I'm not sure how familiar... Well, you said, and it ripped me to pieces, and I was like, oh, I need a whole different tactic on how to deal with that, because that was a new experience. It reminded me of that like retreat, regroup, how are we going to go for this thing?
Yeah, it's exactly that, which I think is not really common in TTRPGs.
No.
And it would be... I hope players go in with an open mind of losing can be cool sometimes.
Yeah. In a game without death, I think it drives home the point a little bit more too. The entire concept to me of... I love death in games. I love failing in tabletop role-playing games. But a lot of the times when you play games like D&D or even Pathfinder 2nd Edition, there is still a pretty good expectation that most of the creatures, you can win the fight. And sometimes in this, it might just be, we're not ready for this.
I have not playtested one of the monsters, the hardest monster, and I'm not sure if I'm going to. I might just be like, challenge. It might be unwinnable, and there's a part of me, like, as a artistry part, would be like, that'd be kind of cool. I might balance it. We will see. But yeah, I think it's very interesting, and it just kind of opens up the possibilities of the type of games and stories you can tell.
Yeah. So let's go down right to the theme of this game, though, because there are two, really. There's the duality, where we've talked a little bit about dualities and such. The other one's the actual, like, setting and vibe of this, and that's the cottagecore aesthetic.
Yeah.
So tell me about where the love for cottagecore came from.
I don't know. It's just kind of like, I mean, it's cutesy. I've definitely have gotten, as I've gotten older, gotten away from that super mask, don't like cute stuff, and maybe have just like doubled down on I missed some shit when I was a kid.
Yep.
But it's also just so there's kind of two parts. There's the ideal of cozy games like Animal Crossing, where I've just spent like hours watching my partner play Animal Crossing Harvest Moon. So that's just some really sweet, slow, to me, sentimental time. And kind of also like you can just kind of play a game that has no meaning, which is so weird. You can just it's just chilling with your friends a bit. I guess there's a goal. Then tying back to the idea of duality, really thinking about why these are some powerful characters, maybe more powerful than the normal. Why are they just in this small town? I've written some backstories for. There's one character that I actually wrote as a D&D game that never got off and running. Yeah. That's the cute cat in the red hood.
Oh, I love that design. I saw that one stuck out to me so quickly.
So the ideal there is that she was in a polyamorous marriage, and then the village was under attack, and she made a deal with some eldritch being. No one remembers her.
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah, and so kind of like that was a lot of inspiration. Was she's just kind of living by herself in a cottage in the woods, killing monsters to sustain her life, and that's kind of a big influence on why would someone live there. What are the actual parts of living this type of lifestyle? It's a bit bloodier than the Instagram shows us.
I think that first of all is a very interesting way to go about it, because I can think of a couple D&D or other tabletop role-playing game characters that I'd be like, I just want them to retire and like just live life cozy and comfortably. But the other thing there that you mentioned was sustaining herself. And one of the things that can help a player in Cottages and Cerberus is Cozy Coin. Can you tell me a little bit about the metacurrency Cozy Coin, how it works, how you get it? Because I know that a lot of that comes down to the CM.
Yeah, so largely this is because I played Pathfinder 2e and I misread the number of hero points that you're supposed to give. And then I realized you can change that amount to change the tone of the game. And so basically, Cozy Coins are mainly used for re-rolls. I call it Fortune. It's D&D 5e advantage. Yes, you re-roll anything that didn't beat the target number. There's a few other uses I've added, like you could use it to ignore an attack. That might not be in the rulebook yet. But so I pitch Cozy Coins as the current currency to make the game more cozy. I suggest 2 Cozy Coins, and it takes a bit of the edge off. You can also gain Cozy Coins during the game by doing something that is very aesthetic or really cool role playing.
One of the things that really ties to that too is cozy mode, which is more of the cottage life aspect than the hunting life. And it's gathering resources and that kind of side of it. I think I can't stress it enough. You've gone a lot of ways to see that this game is written in a style that no matter the tone that you want from this game, you can get that out of it. Like I said, cozy mode, for instance, which is, if I'm reading this right, it's easier monsters, less fighting, more time in town at the cottage visiting NPCs. I love it. I
Yes.
think it's great. Why make sure that these are all included, though?
I mean, I've talked about that a lot, but she was really influencer to how I see the game. My partner should have been addicted to RPGs since she was 12. She did not play an RPG until we had been dating for like 3 years. She was 25. That's an issue with the industry, I think. The fact that we don't make games that are approachable to a wide variety of people.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, she loves hitting things too, but she also could easily just have a game about taking care of the cottage. And that was a really big influence on that. And inviting people to play different type of games and to get people who might not be super into certain type of games to try RPGs, because man, are they a drug, and I wish everyone was addicted.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I look at it too. I look at the way that the show has been shaped by my relationship with my partner as well, and I can get that. Like, there are things that change just by the people we're around, and I think that's very sweet that you've made sure that it's inclusive.
She also yelled at me because she was like, she was like, no, there needs to be rules about cozy mode. I wrote it like as a, like, you don't have to fight monsters. She was like, no, there needs to be rules about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, and I mean this in-game too, what matters most is the cottage rank. And how you're judged by the amazing God of the Moon, Miss Luna. So can you tell me about where Miss Luna came from? And
that was also
how the cottage rank came up. That was also her.
She was on a like single cup of black tea probably, and we did a play test, and she wrote this all out, and I was like, I'm keeping it. But it really works because it kind of gives in Railed, it gives like, this is an actual thing because a deity says it is.
So can you talk a little bit about what she does, though, and who Miss Luna is? Because we've totally forgot to talk.
Miss Luna is the goddess of the moon, and each night she judges your cottages. And as you do work on your cottage, this can be curating magic items from monster parts. It can also be things like tending to the garden. There's no list. That is a whatever the players want, you give them a check. You can increase your coziness, getting cozy points at a certain amount, which is also tunable. When you rank up, you increase the rank, and then at certain parts, she gives you rewards, including extra spoons. The most recent version actually accidentally got some of this cut, but she gives you cookies every night if your rank is at least 5, fresh baked, moon shaped. Tea when you get to the 9 or 10, that will instantly restore your spoons. I might expand it out a bit as I do get more eyes and more experience with the system myself.
Mm-hmm. What makes Miss Luna so fun is that while your character has their individual level, it kind of gives you as a team a collective level. It reminds me of the ranking system in Blades in the Dark.
Yes.
That's, I think, the best comparison I can make. It's a little bit different because it's based on what you do around the cottage and taking care of yourself and how well you're doing in hunts. So I think that it just works a little bit different, but it's this nice extra little flavor that players can sink their teeth into.
I mean, yeah. It can also be used of how you level up. It doesn't have to be, though.
Yeah. So we actually didn't talk about it there, but what kind of dice system does Cottages and Cerberus use, and how do you determine target numbers and the such like that?
Yeah, so it uses D6. It only uses D6s because my local game store stopped selling single dice, and I wasn't easily able to get like 50 D12s.
Wow.
Okay. I have a love for the D12, but I think D6 is probably the right way to go. Target numbers tends to be there's some guidelines, but 2 is one is the easiest. It is possible to still fail 1 if you have some really bad penalties.
Or you're out of spoons.
Yeah. 2 is you're probably going to succeed. 3 and 4 are kind of what you will encounter most often, and if the GM is assigning something, well, CM, technically it's the cottage master, is assigning something on the fly, you should probably do 3 or 4. And then 5 is difficult. The math behind the chances of hitting 4 versus 5 is really interesting. And then 6 is really strong. You probably should not use that unless you've been playing for a while.
Yeah, it's your real late game monsters, and it's a lot of really dangerous situations or things where you really shouldn't probably succeed is when 6 starts to become an issue.
Yeah, I've had just kind of showing the ability to min-max. Usually, like, the most amount of spoons you can get is 6 at level 1, and it doesn't, not spoons, the most amount of dice you can roll is 6, and it doesn't increase. I had a person roll 15 dice and fail.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And like, they succeeded at a cost, but...
Yeah.
And so kind of, I think this is actually a great time to pen. Usually I'm like, there's a right way, there's no wrong way to play RPGs. There's a wrong way to play this RPG. There's a right way to play this. The game is all about teamwork.
Yeah.
Boosting, buffing is always the best option. Which is thematic. It's a conscious choice because cottagecore community is one of those many themes we've talked about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because another setting theme for it is community, and that really does play through in how players can get best results. And I think it's right in the book. It tells you that, like, you succeed as a group.
Yes.
I distinctly remember that. So was that, like, really intentional when you first came in? Like, I want to make sure that this is included.
It was fully intentional. You should, everything is a group effort here. And also, there should never be a leader. Certain people are going to be better at certain things, and then the other people should support and buff those people then. But then other monsters might be more magic resistant, so your physical fighters need to be on the front line while the other people are buffing.
Another really important part, because, like I said, this game does seem designed for long-term play in mind, as its base rules, I should say. Leveling up, there are a lot of options, and I think that they're great. The idea that you can level up and just be like, I am getting a pet now. Like,
yes. So yeah, we didn't mention that. So character curation, you assign a calm you pick 3 abilities out of like the 200-ish that we
That's a
have.
lot.
You choose your vibe, then you choose an equipment, or you can choose a pet.
So let's talk about that, because pets work in a very interesting way that
Yeah.
are great. If I remember correctly, they somewhat act as your weapon at times, depending on what they are.
They're basically a second character. They get a
Yeah.
full action during combat. They have their own health, which is just boons. They have their
Mhm.
own calm. They seem weak, but are probably one of the strongest options. And they are really cute.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love them. Some of the art for them is very good.
I'll say this. So there's a few, including a baby mushroom dragon, a baby shark dog, a baby Cerberus, because obviously the Cerberus was based off of pictures of my pup. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. The Cerberus that's in the hunt is so scary.
Yes.
So I was just like, yeah, I adore that. Like I said, I love the pets, probably because I adore animals and the such. But the pet system's very fun. I like having that second character option, and I say that loosely because they're a little bit different. But I also like in character creation that you don't have different species or ancestries or races, because at the end of the day they're all living this life, and you might assign abilities that help you flesh out what your
Yeah.
character's backstory can do, because there's so many options, and this game's all about options. I love it. I love it a lot.
I mean, I slightly mentioned that I spent like my 8th grade year, not studying and trying to build every Naruto and Kingdom Hearts character with D&D 3rd edition.
That's all. Yeah. Oh my.
So that's where my love of options and stuff come from. Also interesting, you said that this seems to be built as a campaign game. This was at one time a one-page RPG.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That you wouldn't know it when you're looking at 150 pages.
I wanted to challenge to get myself to actually make a game, because I have a bigger game idea that I've been working on for a long time, and I was like, I want to get this out. And then I was like, okay, I'll put one page of RPGs, and then I'll make a like little printable cards, and there'll be like 20 options and like 3 monsters, and and then I started to really like what I made.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to make that then? Because we haven't heard that. That's usually something we talk a little bit about, is the origin. But how did this start? Where did it come to be from?
I was walking my dog, and I was like, Animal plus Monster Hunter. Wouldn't that be funny? like that is distinctly
That's it.
That's literally it. And then I like wrote like once I stayed up to like 5 a.m. and wrote like 20 pages that evening.
Oh my goodness.
I've been I've been game designing for a while. I always have ideas, and so it's just kind of like you file things that don't work, and then when you have an ideal, you go through that and pick and choose what will work.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so interesting, because a lot of the times I feel like those small ideas become big ideas very quickly. And I've heard about content bloat, but one of my favorite things is that the game doesn't feel bloated. And
yes,
it's throughout the entire package, it still stays very precise to its core. The duality of first you relax, then you fight, to go back home and relax some more. And I like that. I think that it's very sweet. This non-toxic work home life kind of situation that you're doing in this game. I love it. And I think it's super unique. It's like I said, I'm flabbergasted by this game. I adore it.
That means so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, like it's easy as a game designer to be, especially since I have lots of game design experience, haven't really done a lot publicly. A lot of it has been video games, NDAs, that type of stuff.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's really great to hear people think it's cool. I think it's cool. I think it's unique. The biggest compliment a friend told me was that it's very Chris, which is me. Which is like, yeah, I run lots of games. If you play games with me, you'll understand that. Otherwise, you'll understand that if you read this.
Yeah. And I think it stands out. Even just talking to you like this, it does start to stick out, and I really like it. But one of the more important things that we're here to talk about, really, is crowdfunding. So first of all, when can people expect for this to go live? Because as of today, we are recording this on May 9th, not to date this too much. So we're recording this on May 9th. When are you looking to throw this up, and where are you looking to throw this up on?
So I'm throwing this up on Kickstarter. I find out next week if I'm launching in June, July, or August. There's one influencer. There was only one that I reached out to. There was for sponsorship because they are the only person who I felt vibed with what I wanted. And they will let me know next week, and they're like the only person who I think is worth it for the success of the game to delay it. If they do not have the availability in later this summer, probably June, I want to say 12th? 13th. Probably June 13th is what I would be aiming for.
Either way, listeners, we'll keep you posted on that after this episode goes live. We'll make sure that you know when Cottages and Cerberus goes live. Chris, we're starting to run low on time here, though. So we got to start wrapping this up there. So having listened to a couple episodes, I don't need to explain the next bit there, but I ask it at the end of every episode. What advice can you give to those new designers out there looking to create their own project, but they're really not sure where to start?
So the first time I listened to you, I was like, obviously, it is just do it. Every single person answer as just do it. And I do agree, but that might not be that's not new advice now. So
it's good advice, but it's not new advice.
All right, so I'll give two actual pieces of advice. Vertical slice. You have this big ideal. People always say, don't have a big ideal to start. People are going to have big ideals anyway. Cool. Pick a part of that ideal, hammer it out till you hate it, throw it away, do it again, and focus on just this one part of the game till it will never be perfect, but you will either be sick of it enough, you'll be sick and tired of it where you won't fidget with it, or you will really like it. The second thing is, if you're listening to this, you are a nerd. Hopefully you have other friends who are also nerds. Do a game design jam. You could just set aside 60 minutes one Saturday, just throwing ideas, trying to each make a very small game. My Goon Squad, as we call, every 3 months or so, we design together, we discuss about what we're doing. Having a community is such a encouragement. It really gets you working. It also gets you thinking.
Yeah. No, I think game jams are excellent advice. It's been a while since we've heard about game jams here. I participated in game jam. I made a game. If I can make one, you can make one. Because my game's rough, but people who've played it said it's fun. But I think that's great advice. Like, just work on something, fine-tune it. You want a good core gameplay loop. Like, people wouldn't play D&D if they hated the combat. That's why I don't play D&D that much. I don't like the combat that much in that game. So I don't play D&D anymore.
Same, but...
Sometimes it's easiest to hop in on that game.
Yes.
It's if you want to play a TTRPG, you can find a D&D group. Chris, where can people find out more about yourself and Cottages and Cerberuses?
All right. So right now we the main place to find this would be twitter.com/cottagecore, no space, _RPG, which also is a link to. I should have a link to the Discord, which is a few people but growing, and in a few days I'll launch the pre-launch page for the Kickstarter. Might be up by the time you put up the podcast.
Awesome. As always, audience, those links are going to be down in the description below. When it goes live, make sure you check out Cottages and Cerberuses. This game is gorgeous and it's adorable. It's really easy to play. I mean, really easy to play. And you can get really into the nitty-gritty of it. There's a lot of really cool options for it. And the hunts are so cool. This is a great game even if you just like art. I'm not going to lie. The art is so good. But aside from that, Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Excellent. It was a pleasure.
It was great having you on. I love learning about Cottages and Cerberuses. Audience, thank you for listening. Chris and Cottages and Cerberuses are scheduled to launch really soon. Go check it out when it goes live. Until next time, though, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to Chris for joining me on the show this week. As it stands, I don't have the full release date for when the Kickstarter is going to be going live, so keep your eyes peeled on socials to get that update when it's announced. Cottages and Cerberuses is adorable. I don't have any other really deep words to say about it. This game's so cute, and it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of options for you and your friends to pick up and run with. You can get into this game really quick. I really recommend it. It's awesome. I don't use that word a lot, but I love it. This game's so cool. Plus, there's some really cool community stuff that's planned to come out, and I didn't get a chance to talk about that because it's new information, but I'm really excited for all of you to see that part. So, on release, make sure you check it out. I'll let you know on social media somewhere. And of course, thank you for listening, audience. Things have been picking up a lot around here with scheduling new episodes and getting people on. I can't say I'm doing stellar at it, as I'm telling you this while I'm standing in a full leg brace, which is healing nicely, by the way. Episodes will be coming down the pipeline, though, so I promise to get them to you as soon as possible. Please continue to share the word, and I'll do my best to get some new faces on here. That's all from me for this week, though. Bye, and I hope to see you somewhere out there.